We finish up this section. Paragraph 4. Ready to start the next one? Okay. So, the Great Earthquake. It's kind of an interesting subject. But, this one consists of 8 paragraphs. And it synchronizes with verse 18 of 16th chapter. And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since that men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. Talking about the earthquake, and of course the question always comes up, the literal, figurative, and everything, and it takes my mind to Zechariah 14. I just wonder whether did you get any answers to your question?
I had a question to Brother Mike Morrell. He didn't reply, so I might just try one to Stephen Mayle and just see what he thinks as well.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting. I don't know. Did you look up the expositor on that?
I didn't.
Yeah,
no, I didn't.
That's kind of interesting. I'll just take a quick look at it here. Just bear with me for a second here. Should have my Bible program opened up here. I just can't find it right now, but I was looking at it here, and they had kind of an interesting comment on it.
So in verse 6 is where the question came from.
Okay, yes, that is it. That was not on the right verse here. Yeah, verse 6. Just enlarge that so you can see it a little better there. Okay. Brother Thomas translates this, and it shall be in that day there shall be no brightness, the splendid ones drawing in. The Revised Version supports this by rendering the words as the bright ones shall contract themselves. The bright ones are the glorified followers of the Lord. They will then be equal unto the angels, 20:36, and like them, able to shine forth in glory as the angels did at the sepulchre of the Lord, Matthew 28, verse 3, or contract themselves as they did when they appeared unto Abraham and Lot as men, Genesis 18, 1-33, Genesis 19, 1-38. The glorified followers of the Lord shall shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of the Father, Matthew 13:43, but will also be able to withdraw that glory when necessary to accomplish the divine purpose, as in a typical figure, the glory of Yahweh in the face of Moses faded by time. And we were just reading a little bit about that here just in a previous section about at this time that this warfare and confrontation is going on, the Christ and the saints will not reveal themselves in their full glory. It will be withheld. And this verse, and this is the same period of time. So that's kind of one explanation of it. It's referring to the Christ and the saints.
And so would Brother Thomas's translation on that come from his knowledge of the original text?
Yes, he goes by the original text, and the Revised Version also seems to go by that too. The bright ones shall contract themselves.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of did to me, and I'm not saying that has to be the answer, but it is one way of looking at it. Because it is talking about the confrontation that is going to take place at that time. And it's talking about in that day, at that time, this is what will happen concerning those who are taking part in it. I just thought I would share that with you there before we went on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about the great earthquake, of course, we are talking about that particular time that we just read about in Zechariah, and so it's a, we'll have to look at it as we go through here. We'll see what it's talking about, but it's a significant in a literal sense as well as in a political sense. Let's take a look at the expositor on that. And this comes from the verse here, and let's go to the expositor for that verse. There was a great earthquake such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. There, and the comment is, there will be both literal and political earthquakes of unprecedented extent at the apocalypse, or the revealing of the Lord Jesus. The literal earthquake will alter the topography of the Holy Land, elevating Mount Zion and plunging Rome into the abyss. The political earthquake will completely destroy the existing political, social, and religious orders and replace them with a divine theocracy on earth. Israel will be completely restored. For this earthquake, see Ezekiel 37 verse 7, it's talking about there. The rule of flesh will give place to the kingdom of God. For this earthquake, see Haggai chapter 2 verses 6 to 8. And the institutions of men will be replaced by those of Christ. So for this earthquake, see Joel 3:16. So he's talking about three different earthquakes or phases of the earthquakes. For the four symbolic earthquakes referred to in the Apocalypse, he notes at Revelation 6:12, 8:5, and 11 and 13. Gordon?
Do you have that map of all the fault zones? Is it on your computer, or is it hard to bring up?
I probably do.
If it's too much trouble, no. But I was just thinking about this earthquake in Nepal.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the subduction zone for the Himalayan mountains.
Right.
And that would probably be the other side of the plate.
Yeah, there's a ring of fire that goes up around that direction there.
Yeah.
Where I would have that.
Started the movement of those plates that will.
Maybe what I'll do, I'll look it up, have it maybe for next week or something like
It's
that.
all right. I just thought it'd be interesting.
It's a good point, because it'd be good to have that in front of us as we talk about the subject of the earthquakes.
Just the location
show that.
of the edges of those
Yes.
plates,
Yeah.
to tell us something.
I might have it. In the presentation. It's weird.
Last terrible.
Last 40 years here. And that would be
Changes in the land.
Yeah. Well, yes, I see what you're saying there. Let's try this one. There you are. There's the fault lines. Yeah. So Nepal is right up in here, I believe it is.
Doesn't really show
Well, it does show the, as it got here, it's a reverse fault. That means an overthrust or subduction zone, generalized. Barbs on the upthrown side, so that would be in here. And
so does that mean it's raising the Himalayan mountains?
Yes.
There, yeah.
Yes, if it's going under, that is the,
Pushing it up.
that's what's, has caused them, and that's what continues to raise them. I think.
This comment is kind of off the wall, but I happened to
Well,
read I happened to read something out of the Geographic about scientists have discovered that, well, they've known this for a long time, but they've just made it public, that there's vast amounts of water trapped beneath the mantle of the Earth on account of the subduction of plates,
Mhm.
tectonic plates. And I've always thought about in the flood, when the fountains of the deep were opened
Mhm.
up, it speaks like as if there's something coming out of the earth. And from my knowledge, it's like, no, that would never happen. That's all hot lava down there. But apparently there is vast amounts, like
Mhm.
oceans of water
Yes.
below, and as the tectonic plates shift.
Yeah.
And it just totally, to me, the scriptures verify themselves without us having to sweat it, really.
Yeah.
It's there.
Right.
Just on that though, if I read that a while ago, it wasn't from the Geographic, but it's not in the form of water as we know it. It's in a different form, which when released, turned to water. I can't really explain that, but it's in a gaseous form or something
Mhm.
that once it's
Once it hits air.
above the mantle,
Yeah.
it does turn to water. Which sort of explains the difficulty with the heat and all
Mhm.
that. But I can't go further than that. It was.
You know where it was? Do you know where you read it?
Uh,
Or Eileen? You think using Geographic? You read it?
It was on the internet connected to the Geographic.
Okay.
I probably still have
Yeah,
it.
see if you can bring it up. It's,
Yeah.
it's an interesting,
Mhm.
interesting point. Yeah.
I think I saw it in Yahoo News,
Okay.
which pulls things in from
Yes.
all over.
Right. Herb?
Yeah, I was just thinking kind of an idea to think about maybe with this earthquake, literal, figurative. Literal would be like the actual earthquake, like in Rome or whatever, and the tsunami effect after would be the figurative result of the damages,
Mhm.
how it affects after the earthquake. Maybe that's sort of
The results of
how
it.
it works.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think there's a lot of, and I haven't, I should have turned those passages up that Brother Mansfield mentioned there about the different types of earthquakes. And we can maybe even do that and look at that because it's interesting. It seems to indicate that there's at least three different types of earthquakes that the scriptures talk about, and he gives those passages. So. But anyway, this is the plate and the plate map, and the Arabian plate is right in here in this area, and the division of that goes right up through the land, and then of course around the city of Jerusalem, which we don't have a very enlarged map of here, but around the city of Jerusalem, there's 4 different fault lines around that, which actually almost kind of isolate the city from surrounding land. It's almost like its own little shelf. Where,
From what I've seen, and I know this is somewhat speculative, but they feel that the continents of the world were all packed together, and you could see how
Yes.
Europe and Africa could fit
And they've
into
shifted.
the eastern coast of the North America, right? And that they're gradually spreading out. Whether that
which would account for some of the animals that of the animal kingdom being isolated to certain continents. They're unique to, like the kangaroo to Australia. It's maybe at one time those continents were connected, and
then they would die off as the land became unsuitable for them. They'd die off.
yeah. There's the quotation in Genesis that in his days the earth was divided. Could be relating to something like that happening. It's a natural event speeded up by a miraculous input, like the Creator. Could have happened even during time of the flood, it's still kind of in his days, and it would be in that era of time, and what that particular statement means about in his days. So this is another showing the effects of the earthquake. Speculated sort of thing about speculated as to how this will be, but shows the raising of the Dead Sea level to become a living sea instead of a Dead Sea, whereas before it was down in here, this area, and now it's raised up. The high plateau of Jerusalem is dropped down by about looks like 600 meters or so in elevation. So it becomes a kind of a level area. And then this other one shows how the waters flow out down to the Hinder Sea and then to the former sea.
I'm just wondering, with you having been at the Dead Sea, do you think there's any indication that there was, at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, there was a drop in the land?
I absolutely do. Yeah, I think there was. Just simply because of the way Lot described that area. It was a plain, well watered everywhere. Where Sodom and Gomorrah was. That's what drew him to it. And it certainly, if that Dead Sea had been there, it would have been a different description altogether, I would think. But when he looked at the plain, it was something that drew his attention to it. He wanted it was green, lush, beautiful. And it's not that. It's just all water today, the whole area. So, Gordon?
If there's a subduction going on from the plate that's off the shore, that could lift the whole thing up.
Yeah. And there's a plate fault line that runs right through the Dead Sea area here. And that's the Great Rift Valley fault line. It goes right down through Central Africa. So it's a huge fault line. Yes.
The other thought is that Sodom and Gomorrah, was called fire and brimstone, but there's some suggestion that was even like a nuclear event almost.
Well, it's possible.
Just vaporize some of the ground.
Yes.
Which would leave a crater.
Yeah. The other point about the Sea of Galilee, almost because of the presence of, before they started exporting them all over the world, tilapia were only found in two places in the world. One is Lake Victoria, that's St. Peter's fish they call it, but it's actually a tilapia. And the other location was Lake Victoria. So you see the two ends of the Great Rift Valley, and the two places where tilapia are found. So it almost indicates that at one time there was a joining of those two waters, or at least they had flowed together under some cataclysmic event, before they were separated again. And that would also indicate that the whole area of the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea would have been probably a formation after that period of time happening. Because otherwise, they'd just float into the sea and become found in the ocean. They wouldn't have survived in the ocean because it's salt water. There's a lot of, and all this is speculation, of course, but it's just interesting that some of these things can happen.
Well, it's not really, because even in my lifetime, which is short, I've seen changes in the earth in different places.
Yes, certainly. So the Jerusalem fault, that right here, yeah, the Jerusalem fault. That's the main fault. It goes right up through the, and it kind of crosses the Great Rift Valley fault line, but there's another fault line goes right up through there and to Jerusalem. And that fault, it is speculated, would be, in the, I think where we have it up here, I don't know if I can bring it up closer. Yes, to follow that up closer. Where does it go? It goes right through the kind of the center of Jerusalem. Yeah, and that shows the line, and it just sort of coincidentally goes right through where the Mosque of Omar is. So,
Get rid of that.
I don't know if we can get that precise, but it does go through the Mount of Olives and the Temple Mount area. And I think that Brother Sully shows this on his map here too. This line going through this axis kind of through here. Here's the axis of the fault line. Sorry?
This is speculated, but does it, like, if that seismic activity continues on after the kingdom, we don't know if it would, but there's no reason to think it wouldn't. Would the temple be damaged at some point by that, or would that be protected, or, I mean, if it's sitting on a
It'll sit there for 1,000 years. I guess I don't know what might happen after that.
Yeah, that's right. It may not be needed after that.
Right. But we're told it'll be there for 1,000 years, and we're not told that it'll be there after that. So we don't know what
Just take the Mighty's word for it.
That's right.
must have some idea.
Must have some indication. And
They said it's going to be there until we see.
yeah. And these days I can build to a standard quick too. And I think you can be sure that the right technology will be used in the building of it if there's going to have to be some resistance to that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. So anyway, we'll just kind of go down through the paragraph topics here. Paragraph 1 is an introduction to the earthquake, indicating that it is to occur after divine occupation of Jerusalem. Paragraph 2 speaks of the earthquake, initially a literal occurrence, signaling the greater political upheaval. Paragraph 3, this earthquake to be connected in series with the great earthquake of AD 70. And of course, by now you'll understand we're talking here about the political aspect of it. And I think in paragraph 1 also we're talking sort of about the political, as we know that the divine, the literal earthquake will happen probably at the time of or just before Christ and the saints march up to Jerusalem, but the political earthquake will occur after that. Paragraph 1. Paragraph 4, as the Jewish heavens and earth were shaken, likewise the Gentile heavens and earth. It's kind of the two sides of the coin. First the Jewish heavens and earth, then the Gentile heavens and earth. Paragraph 5 speaks of the political shaking to split the great city Babylon into 3 parts. And paragraph 6 sort of further explores that idea. The political shaking splits the great city Babylon into 3 parts. The eastern part, or the eastern third, falls first. Paragraph 7, the political earthquake causes independent states, or islands, to succumb to divine rule. And paragraph 8, political earthquake displaces all mountains with a great mountain, filling the whole earth. So it's kind of an interesting section. We'll get started. So the paragraph 1, introduction to the earthquake, is given here, and he says it's to occur after divine occupation of Jerusalem. And of course, he first of all repeats the verse. I don't think there's anything there that he changes too much in his translation. So he says, when this earthquake shall occur, Yahweh Elohim will be enthroned in Jerusalem. This appears from Joel 3, verse 16, where it is written, Yahweh shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And that voice is the great voice of this vial. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but Yahweh shall be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So in this paragraph, the earthquake is represented as shaking the heavens and the earth. Joel indicates by means of this figure of speech that at the time of this divine intervention in human affairs, there will be a cataclysmic political upheaval that will rock the kingdoms, governments, nations, and peoples to their very foundations. Only those who put their hope and faith in Yahweh will be secure and stable. Well, that's the introduction. I don't know too much to probably comment or question on that. Gordon, do you have anything?
Well, I was just thinking about the rocking of right from top to the bottom to their foundations indicates that the foundations of the present age are based on power and wealth and
Selfish, self-will,
they're based on the wrong things. So therefore,
thanklessness, gratefulness is again, the lack of gratefulness is really rooted in selfishness and self-will.
And those foundations are destined to be changed, to fail.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really it's the on confrontation with human nature. Okay, paragraph 2. The earthquake, he says, is initially a literal occurrence, signaling the greater political upheaval. And he says this may be called the epoch of earthquakes, or the time of earthquakes. For the conclusion of the sixth vial is signalized by an earthquake that divides the Mount of Olives and projects one half of the mount towards the north and the other towards the south, and leaves a great, very great valley between. This shakes the earth while Gog is in the land, and accompanies the presence of Yahweh there, who says, all the men upon the face of the land shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the towers shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout my mountains, and so forth. Now, quoting from a couple of passages there, Ezekiel 38 verses 19, 20, and 21. In my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven, the beasts of the field, all the creeping things that creep upon the earth, and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. So he's talking there about the mountains being thrown down, and the fishes of the sea, the fowls of the heaven, beasts of the earth, and all of those things. Was there literal or figurative? And then Isaiah 20 verse 30 verse 35. 25. 30, verse 25, is where he speaks about the towers. And there shall be upon every high mountain, upon every high hill, rivers and streams of waters in the day of the great slaughter when the towers fall. So I was thinking about that. I think gave a talk once when Al Qaeda went into the Twin Towers, and that quotation kind of popped out at me about the falling of the towers. But that's not really the fulfillment of it, but it just kind of was significant, and I think it was like a forecast of what is yet to happen. This will be an earthquake in the most literal sense, but it may also be accepted as the earnest or the down payment or the token of that more terrible and extensive political earthquake of the seventh vial, of which the Spirit speaks in Haggai 2 verses 6 and 21, saying, "Yet once it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the Chemdath, all the nations at Habu, that is, they shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith Yahweh Sabaoth." In the English version, Chemdath is rendered desire of, and some lexicons tell us that the word has no plural. But if this be true, by what rule is it made the nominative of the plural verb vahu, they shall come? The Messiah is supposed to be the person desired by all the nations that is coming. But in what sense can he be said to be the desire of the nations when they are all to compass him about, and in the name of Yahweh he will destroy them? And he quotes there from Psalm 118 and 10, "All nations compass me about, but in the name of the Lord will I destroy them." And Revelation 17:14, "He shall make war with the Lamb shall overcome them." It says, it seems to me that a letter has been dropped in the transcription, and that the word should read Chemdot in the plural, and the excellencies or desires of all the nations shall come. But if the Chemdath in the singular be correct, then the construction is to be accounted for upon the same principle that Elohim, plural, is so often construed with a verb in the singular. The excellency of all the nations, they shall come. Or as Zechariah expresses the same thing, Yahweh Elohim, he shall come in, all the saints with thee, he and all the saints being the excellency of all the nations. So just showing there how, that seemingly or apparently it is a singular, but can be understood in the plural sense, like Elohim. So he summarizes here, the earthquake will usher in a time of divine rule, beginning as a kernel in Edom and Jerusalem at the end of the 6th vial period, and growing to gradually envelop the world. The author expounds on a translation difficulty regarding the plurality of the phrase, but concludes that however it is regarded or translated, it still conforms to the idea of the passage, that a multitude of divine rulers entering upon the land, you might say in a united oneness.
That about the towers falling, and I realize it's probably referring to centers of power more than anything, but it just happened that a security camera caught one of the temples of Nepal falling. It just went down.
It's that kind of thing. And, whether you take it as a figure of speech of the towers of power, or the pride of man. These towers, like the Twin Towers in New York City, they were the pride of mankind. It took, it was something that
Symbol.
we have done this, we've made it. Of course, it's like, the Hebrew word huckspot. That this, this is ours, we've done this. That's going to fall.
You get some of those really high skyscrapers in Dubai and Hong Kong
Oh yeah.
and Beijing.
You see those
Wow.
Dubai, like the some of those. They're
It's like
probably
that.
one of the most advanced cities in the world.
Yeah.
In terms of their
And they're
building
supposed to be earthquake proof,
Yeah.
but they won't be.
No. And they might be earthquake proof, but if they're standing under a mile of water, it won't help them much. Yeah, let's see. I think we probably got time for paragraph 3. Talks about this earthquake is to be connected in series. The great earthquake of AD 70. He says, I will shake all nations. This is a nation quake whose shocks are worldwide and affecting the earth, the sea, and the dry land of the whole political community of the globe. But the heavens are to be shaken likewise. Even the heavens and the earth of the commonwealth of Israel were not to escape. Paul, who wrote in the epistle to the Hebrews while the temple was yet standing in Jerusalem, adduced this prophecy in Haggai in evidence that the Mosaic heavens, which had waxed old, were to be shaken as to vanish away. Hebrews 8:13 says, in that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now he that decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. Speaking about the old covenant, Mosaic institution. And 12 verses 26 to 29, whose voice then shook the earth, talking about when the first covenant was made. But now he hath promised, saying, yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also heaven. And this word, yet once more, that's the prophecy from Haggai, signifieth the removing of those things that are shaken, as of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Wherefore we, receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. For God is a consuming fire. Didn't need to do that. Back to that. Look then into the land of Israel, and behold trouble, and darkness, dimness, and anguish, and all driven to darkness. Isaiah 8:22. This state of things has obtained or lasted for a long series of ages. There is no Mosaic heavens and earth there. All the institutions of Moses have vanished away, and Israel's sun and moon are darkened. Their stars have withdrawn their shining as a result of the fire and pillars of smoke. The wonders shown in the heavens and the earth when they were shaken. And all this came to pass before the great and terrible day of Yahweh, which is not yet quite come. So the great political earthquake of AD 70 was the first of a series that would eventually result in the complete change of the entire political landscape. It goes from Joel 2 verses 30 to 31. I will show wonders in the heavens and the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And of course, as Paul expressed it, that was referring to the sun and the moon of the Israelitish institution. And also chapter 3, the next chapter, verse 15. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord shall roar out his land, utter his voice in Jerusalem. The heavens and the earth shall shake. And talks about multitudes and multitudes in the valley of decision. It was speaking about the armies, the great Roman armies coming in there, and they darkened the sun and the moon of the Israelitish institution. I think we'll have to leave it there. If there's any comments, maybe you have a couple of minutes yet. Gordon?
When you look in the whole, kind of overview the whole thing, you realize how temporary things are, even even like what we think is lasting today is going to pass. It's not meant to. Should stay the same.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Well, we did it.